you do have pretty characters in real life. Just look at me.
Yeah, you're our Lisa Simpson.
I'm unless mistaken.
Hello and welcome to the QUACKCAST. This is QUACKCAST number 454. I'm Ozone Ocean. With me is Tance. Hi, Tance.
Hello.
And Baines. Hi, Baines.
Hello.
So, Super Baines and Wonder Tance. We're talking about Scorsese's remarks about the Marvel universe, about how it's not cinema, and also other attendant comments like Coppola and saying it's all despicable and stuff like that, and all the Twitter sphere and their ranting and raving and wailing and gnashing of teeth and rending of fabric, and as they say, no, Marvel films are good. What are you talking about? Oh. Don't criticize the stuff we love.
How dare you? No.
Exactly.
Now we need the Darth Vader no.
No! All right. But first we have to get into the stuff that we talk about, which is the featured comic. QUACKCAST has featured Faint. Talk about that, Kwai. Faint. And that is spelt faint as in, sword fighting feint. Or pretend attack.
Hello, this is QUACKCAST, and the feature I've selected for this week is Faint by Stone Raccoon, and it is rated M for mature. SG, a teenage girl, is on the lookout for her missing boyfriend, but finds herself in the clutches of a mountain lion instead. Following her earthly death, she finds herself down the rabbit hole, greeted by an assortment of Eastern and Western deities, until she spawns somewhere in Wisconsin, greeted by a bunch of laid-back hippies that enjoy a far-out time and Led Zeppelin music. It turns out that the shirt on her back is her most important ticket to the afterlife. The art is drawn in digital color. The story is told in full-page comic layout. Figure out the true path after this life and read Faint by Stone Raccoon, rated M.
And that was the featured comic, a Kwai featured Faint. Alright, so the featured music for this week is Inner Enemy, which was a comic I featured, just the other day. So thanks, Gar Wallace, for having a look at this and doing a theme song for it. Inner Enemy. Time races ever onwards as the piano keys play note after note. Step by inevitable step, we move closer and closer to uncovering the mystery at the heart of this world. It teases at the edges like the disturbing, haunting background melodies in this track. So, take it away, Gun Wallace, with Inner Enemy. And that was the featured theme, which was Inner Enemy, which is a great comic by Sabin, and it's rated T, and it was featured. So go and read that. Or just listen to that theme again, which is really cool. Okay,
Mhm.
So Scorsese said some stuff about a movie, and oh god, I hate this phrase, but the internet went crazy. The internet lost its mind.
What's the internet?
The internet just got checked
Surprise.
into an insane asylum and is currently under guard in a locked ward. Involuntary admission. I'm afraid that's what
So
happened.
it's basically Tuesday.
Yeah, it's not going crazy about Scorsese. It's Kim Kardashian's buttocks or something. So
Yeah.
there's got to be something for the internet to go crazy about. Apparently,
Crazy about Scorsese is catchy, now that you say it.
it's a new song lyric, Baines. You've got to write the rest of that now.
Yeah.
Crazy about Scorsese. All right. So the genesis of this is a little interview that we'll have linked in the notes, and this is very important. So he just didn't say, the Marvel films aren't cinema. Take that. That's my quote for the week. Marvel films are not cinema. I'm old and I'm rich and I don't care. That's not what he said. So
Incredible Russian, though.
yeah, I know. I could be him. But this whole thing is he was being interviewed about the process of making a particular project. I don't know what it was, like a film or a TV show or something. He was making a thing, and he was being interviewed about it and about the future of storytelling in a cinematic format, or whether it's cinematic, how are you going to tell these stories? So he's talking about technology, he's talking about streaming, he's talking about like all the options they had available to them. And, for funding as well, because I don't know, this from a production standpoint. So he's thinking, how much is this going to cost? What do we have the money to do on this project? Do we have CGI? Do we have, we're going to sign a contract with distributors. How are we going to distribute it? Okay, so we have to do streaming first and a limited release in theaters. So that's the context behind this. It was super boring discussion about film production. And in that, he talks about, the nature of cinema. So this is an aside. This is a small part. This is not what he was talking about mainly, but this was just an aside. He's saying, I wouldn't want to produce cinema, narrative works, narrative cinema. And then he's talking about stuff that, like TV series. So he's saying, I used to think that long-form TV series were the new cinema for a while. And then I realized they weren't. And he means that because he's talking about cinema as in a specific, encapsulated experience. It's curated by what the director wants you to see. And it's a group experience as well. So you're on the cinema together watching it. And it goes from beginning to end. You watch the development of the character or development of the story or whatever, and it finishes, and that's it. You get all of that stuff in that one hit. And to him, that's cinema. And he brings up things that and he meant that TV series aren't cinema in that you're not stuck in that encapsulated kind of thing. You could watch 2 episodes, you could watch 3, you could watch 4. So you're taking it in your own kind of, at your own speed, in your own way. You're customizing experience for yourself. And he brings up Marvel as an example of something else that's not cinema, and it's more theme parky in that it's more like an all-encompassing experience. You're not sitting down and watching one kind of thing. You're watching a whole bunch of films and you're getting involved in that world. And that's the kind of, that's the context of which he was talking about. You're saying that's not cinema in the way he had defined it.
He didn't say what you just said about the all-encompassing.
Well, I don't mean to put words in his mouth, but I'm sort of interpreting it in the context of what he was talking about in terms of, so like a TV series wasn't cinema because that was a bigger kind of thing. That was a reason for that not being cinema, because you're not it's not a curated, small, encapsulated experience. And when he said Marvel films aren't cinema, that's what I took it to mean, because it's not one little film that you're watching that's all like there. You're watching like 15 different films in any kind of order, and it's all part of one big world. Do you know what I mean? I think that's really what he meant.
I mean, yeah.
Please go on.
It's more of an experience, you know. He uses the term theme park, so I'm thinking you experience that world. You're not going in it. You know, there is obviously a little encapsulated narrative in each film, but you don't really watch them necessarily for that. You go in for the experience of it, and that's what Marvel is to most people. They're not just thinking, oh yeah, Iron Man. They're thinking now it's like Avengers and Endgame and Infinity War, and you know, I just want to get immersed into this thing again. Okay, sorry, I've just been monopolizing this, so go on. Sorry.
No. I would say that, as I also mentioned that briefly in our Patreon video, and the thing is, the thing is that he didn't actually define what exactly he was referring to by saying cinema or narrative cinema. And that is a big issue. Often, especially in the very quick rapid fire interactions in social media and stuff, we don't stop to precise and be certain that we are all on the same page when we use certain terms. So that might be also an issue, because the way that he was using the term, to me, denoted more like the whole Marvel universe thing is a different format of narrative work, of cinematic work, if you like. So it is not in the format that perhaps is the more classic version of what a movie is. Which, if that was his take on it, he does have a point, because we refer to it as a cinematic universe. And in many ways, certain movies, not all of them, but a good part of these movies cannot be experienced and cannot be enjoyed to the fullest if you haven't already seen all the other ones that came before them. So basically, you lose a big element that used to be a thing with movies, that they were standalone, independent, that you could immerse yourself in for 2 hours, and that was it. To enjoy the cinematic universe, you need to have done your homework. Otherwise, you will not be able to quote-unquote get it. You will not be able to be emotionally engaged in what is happening with the characters, and you might not even recognize characters, not know who they are or where they came from or why they are where they are. So all these things used to be presented and answered within one movie, period. And that was it. Even if you had series, you still had the capacity to jump in and not be lost. So this doesn't always happen in a cinematic universe of modern filmography, let's say. So if we take his words to have meant that, then he was correct. If we take his words to be value judgments, which personally I don't find evidence of it.
No, I didn't see it as a value judgment at all. I didn't see it as a value judgment at all.
Yeah, it didn't sound to me as a value judgment either. Then you could argue that he is denigrating, one format over the other and stuff. But the way that he was phrasing the entire answer, which is actually, a bit long-winded and lacks some coherence, as the question as well. I have to say that the question was all over the place. He is more like mapping the development of cinema and the medium and the technological capacities of the medium as they are developing now, rather than, this is cinema that will stay in for the ages, and you will be able to have an experience and learn and whatever else, and this isn't, and it is trash. I don't think that he said that.
No, that was more the words of Francis Ford Coppola.
Mm-hmm.
When he had his little moment. So if you don't know, Francis Ford Coppola weighed in on the subject, and he said basically that, my friend Martin was being too kind. He didn't say that these films were despicable, but I will say that they are despicable. They're trashy, and you don't really, get very heavily involved in them and follow the journey of a character. And so, personally, I would take that to mean that he himself really didn't think about those words too well. He was just trying to defend his friend and doing it badly, like people do when they're ham-fisted and they're trying to defend their friends. He just waded in and put words in everyone's mouth and, just added vodka to the fire and made everything 10 times worse. Despicable is a stupid word.
And he was like, Martin was being nice about it. He wouldn't say they were horrible and despicable, but I will say it.
Yeah.
They're despicable.
Yes.
So.
And that's nothing compared to what Jennifer Aniston said.
Oh, what did she say? What did Jennifer Aniston say?
I finally had a chance to look that up. So yeah, she said something like she's not being offered those roles. She's not interested in those roles, and she had expressed some and she's gone back to TV and I guess streaming series, whatever she's doing. But I guess, she said she's not really interested in that. Too much green screen, and she wishes there was more space for other movies. She specifically mentions Meg Ryan, the era of Meg Ryan.
She basically was the modern Meg Ryan.
She was, yeah. So I'm sorry to laugh as I say it. She's allowed to think what she wants, and I think she somewhat has a point actually about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Scorsese might have been saying something similar in his answer, where there's no space for anything else because there's so much devoted to these big superhero movies.
I think you took the wrong context of that, because when he was saying space, it was, from what I took, when he was answering that question in the interview, he was talking about how much space that they had specifically for this project he was working on.
Right.
That's how I took it. And it was hard to work out what he meant by it, but he was saying we are running out of space, and I thought he meant like of his own production and things that they had available to them within it, rather than externally, like these Marvel films are taking up all the air. Because the way I look at it, and I say this because I don't feel that his films would be at all competing for resources or anything else, because Marvel is on another strata from what he's doing. It's like the clouds way above him at the moment. And his stuff would be in independent cinemas and, well, not really independent, but the smaller kind of things and streaming and stuff. So that's really what I would say. So why do you think that it's taking up the same space as
I'm just saying what Jennifer Aniston is saying.
Okay.
And I thought by implication Scorsese was saying something similar, because we're running out of space doesn't sound like something that applies to just one movie. And his movie is playing in theaters,
Yeah.
and also streaming. So he was kind of talking. I mean, he didn't really get into detail with that, but it seemed to be like there were discussions about, okay, how do we get this funded? How is it going to be released? And seemed to be kind of like it seemed to be an issue for him that yes, it will play theatrically, but also it's going to have to stream, and that's what we had to live with. Like he wasn't thrilled with that. Because he would like it to be a theatrical experience. And then he went on to talk about all that. But I think by implication, like if he says we're running out of space, that would be more of a broader kind of statement. You know? I mean, the problem is we don't have a Scorsese translator to tell us for a lot of this stuff. Jennifer Aniston specifically says, you know, there's no space for my horrible crap these terrible comedies that I was doing. Okay, maybe I'm putting words in her mouth there.
Yeah,
you know, well, I think that might be fair. I don't. My finger's not on the theatrical pulse really, but I would say those big comedies, those big PG-13 comedies, they don't exist in theaters anymore. You don't see them.
I do think that there is this
thrillers. You don't see them. Go ahead, Tance.
Yeah. I do think there is this tendency, like every studio has to have their own universe, cinematic universe. We have seen Universal trying, I think it's Universal with the monsters, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we have also seen the DC cinematic universe. Like everyone wants to have a bit and a piece of a cinematic universe nowadays, because Hollywood historically has shown that whatever manages to make money once, then they will catatonically try to make it again and again and again and again. So everyone is throwing money at superhero movies the way that they didn't some 15, 20 years ago. So what I'm thinking is that she does have a point in the sense that forget hair crap. Other movies don't seem to have breathing space, at least in the pitching room. Because, for example, if we take Joker, which still is a superhero movie, let's say, okay, even though it is an origin story of Joker and it is like a black label sort of one shot, which is not going to be a one shot anymore, I think. So even if we say, like if we take the Joker, even though it is a superhero film, it is completely different in style, in rhythm, in approach and in messages and everything than the rest of the superhero genre movies. And we see it's a huge success. There is definitely room for other kinds and other styles of movies. The thing is that they don't get made very easily because investors generally and logically want to secure their investment. So they will go for whatever seems to be like a repeat of whatever was very lucrative before. So yes, I do think that she does have a point. That her, happy-go-lucky boy meets girl comedy, drama / silliness will not get made anymore because it doesn't make as much money anymore.
Yeah. There's no more movies about Matthew McConaughey learning to grow up, finally.
Exactly.
I love those films.
You need more.
So there are different ways of looking at it. Yeah, we do run the risk of putting words in people's mouth, either for attacking or defending, which it can be a problem. So people are obviously very invested in these films because there's a lot of people that love them. They've got a huge fan base for the Marvel films, obviously because they are so popular. They wouldn't be popular if people didn't love them. So people have a vested interest in supporting them and defending them, which is what they have been doing, and demonizing Scorsese and Coppola and anybody else who agrees with them and saying, you know, oh, you're over the hill, you're out of touch, you don't understand cinema anymore, it's changed and whatever. And it really hasn't changed that much, really.
No.
And these people aren't really out of touch, you know, and they're not old school, they're not invested in the old world. They're educated. They've been part of film from the beginning, but they know what they're talking about. And, you know, they're right to their opinion. That it's not exactly gospel, and we shouldn't take their opinion and say, yep, now we're all going to agree with Scorsese and Coppola and Aniston or whoever else. We shouldn't say that, but they can say what they want without us attacking them for saying it and disagreeing with them.
Which, by the way, should be the norm for anyone. You don't have to be Scorsese to not be attacked about your opinion on something, especially movies. But I also want to point out, I don't remember if I said it in the Patreon video, if it was, you know, when we were discussing off the air, that there is an element of hypocrisy in it, because if Scorsese or Coppola or whoever had said that, oh, the new, you know, paragon of cinema is the MCU and Iron Man and I don't know who. Then you would have everyone say, see, the master of the craft that has created all these amazing movies now says this, and they would use it as a stamp of approval. Now that he doesn't give his stamp of approval, but these people that are attacking seem to have the need to make him into an old geezer that is getting, you know, senile. So this is wrong.
Ad hominem attacks in order to defend your little bailiwick, which is sad, really. It's sad. And
it's wrong on every level, too. I mean, with Martin Scorsese especially, you know, like the guy's putting out amazing stuff still, you know?
Yeah.
On the regular, like he's doing awesome.
Exactly.
movies.
He's still a great filmmaker.
Yeah.
Still. Coppola as well. Yeah, we shouldn't discount them at all just for, you know, little throwaway things. They're saying where it can be a problem, though, say, you know, to play devil's advocate or whatever. So Scorsese and Coppola are very influential people in that industry. So what they're saying isn't just like the words of us or whoever else having an opinion about films. What they're saying can actually carry weight. So, like I was saying, Scorsese, from the quote, didn't seem openly critical of those sort of films, but Coppola was. You know, what if by saying that and carrying weight, he was also like working with the Academy, the like, what is it, the Motion Picture Academy, whatever it is, to say, okay, all right, Marvel films can't be eligible for Oscars anymore, or something that, you know, like, so he could do that. He could definitely have that kind of influence.
Yes, if he were influential, like, I think that the Motion Picture Academy, as well as Hollywood, follow the money. So money talks.
Well,
If they get more views, and if they get more, like, because, for example, the Oscar ceremony has been struggling a lot with viewership, and they will not risk being further, you know, dropped into the unwanted bin by getting that sort of publicity.
Yeah, they do, but that would also give that, if they did get that publicity, though, that would create buzz, and it would create a lot of, you know, there'd be people that wouldn't like it, but there would be...
It would create boycott buzz, though, because these kinds of people, let's say, and I put it in a way that might sound even toxic, quote unquote, but the people that are attacking Scorsese and Coppola would attack the awards, and they would attack by boycotting them. So I don't think that they would want to risk something like that.
Well,
However,
yeah.
assuming that this was not a risk, and you have Coppola having weight, carrying weight in the Academy and everything, for excluding films like this from getting nominated and stuff. This speaks for other problems in the system. Gagging someone, whether their opinion carries weight or not, is not a good thing to do in any way.
Yeah.
I think.
But I was just going to say that the boycotts really wouldn't matter to them, because these are the kind of people that don't watch Oscar films anyway. People who love, those sort of, big budget bubblegum films aren't the people who are going to see The Revenant and all that kind of stuff. So
I'm not sure about that, actually.
Well, I mean, there's different tiers of films that, get popular for different reasons. So I've got all those kind of Marvel films, whatever, James Bond, those kind of blockbuster kind of things. They run on star power and spectacle. Oscar films just run on having Oscars. So in that, if someone got nominated or gets an Oscar or whatever, they're worthy, people will go and see it for that. That's the kind of, the draw.
If that is the context, then the MCU type films don't need the Oscars. So being excluded wouldn't actually affect them or their fandom.
Yeah, that's true, but it does affect the directors, because they care about it, and all the people who actually work on it, they care about it not in terms of money, but they care about that in terms of validation, and the actors as well. So you've got all that kind of emotional stuff.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, the thing is, if you accept, and that's another thing, if you expect and accept and give the power, let's say, to a committee to judge without any sort of accountability, let's say, on what film is worth getting a golden statuette and what film isn't, then you only have yourself to blame, really. You shouldn't be giving them that sort of status. Of course, that is incendiary, as I'm saying it, but the idea is, if you accept that you have a committee that is going to reward whoever they deem worthy on their own tastes and merit, then you cannot protest when they exclude someone on exactly their own opinions and subjective reasoning. You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, that's quite true. Yeah, there is if you're going to accept them for a start, well, you have to accept everything that they say.
Unless you put checks and balances within the committee, or unless you force them to accept popular demand, at least to a point. And I don't think that there is any kind of condition like that in the Oscars.
The Oscars do have people like, say Spielberg was working, I think Spielberg, from memory, was working against, okay, we're not going to have like a Netflix films included in the Oscars because of the TV relationship, and they're made to be viewed in a certain way. So he was, I think, I could be wrong, but I think he was behind wanting to exclude Netflix movies from the Oscars.
Yeah, movies, he said, had to have played theatrically to be eligible. Yeah,
which I think is wrong. However, again, I say that you cannot if you don't have, you either need to have a sort of mini set of rules, like a rule book that they can be tested and checked against under pain of some sort of consequence if they breach it. If you don't have something like that, then you are basically telling them, give me your opinion, and your opinion matters as far as who gets to hold the golden statuette. And if that happens, then you cannot groan about it. So if Coppola was within the committee, or his opinion mattered enough to these people that they would exclude MCU films, then that's too bad. Unless we had a rule that every film that gets published, for example, should be considered regardless. Or, there will be a voting globally, and the short list of films that make it, they get more than X million votes or something, then you have to pick from these films, whether you like it or not, for example. If you had something like that, then we could talk about whether, someone should speak out or shouldn't speak out on certain things. So, and it might sound harsh, but you can't really have it both ways, the way that you want.
Yeah, and we must remember that this isn't necessarily what Coppola is after. This was just my own speculation on the power
that's
that
exactly.
He could exert.
He probably was not thinking of the Oscars, and he was thinking like he was on a rant for certain reason. We don't really know what triggered the rant and what else might have happened that we are not privy to. However, you cannot negate people for having their opinions. And if you accept that someone's opinion matters more than someone else's, then you go by that and you put a cork in it, sorry. Or you decide that everyone's opinion is equal. And then, again, you go with whatever is your opinion, and that's that.
Yeah. Right. I was just going to read out the what Scorsese said. So not Scorsese. What Coppola says. And okay, look, I think I found the original quote here. So he says, "What Martin Scorsese says that the Marvel pictures are not cinema. He's right." Because we expect to learn something from cinema. We expect to gain something, some enlightenment, some knowledge, some inspiration. I don't know that anyone gets anything out of seeing the same movie over and over again. Martin was kind when he said it's not cinema. He didn't say that it's despicable, which I say it is. So that seems to be the entire quote.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying it's the same film over and over and over, and you don't get anything from it. So he's, well, like I was saying before, it seemed to be just like an off-the-cuff kind of defense, because that is just rhetoric. That kind of stuff is what we always say about our films that we don't like, or films that other people like, and we don't really know why they like them. And we're just going to have some reason to have a criticism. That seems to be just rhetoric. And
I mean, putting it that way, though, does make the amusement park thing make sense. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, like Scorsese's amusement park comment, I couldn't figure out what he means by that, really, in a way that made sense to me. Unless that's what he means. It's the same thing over and over. It's just sensation. It's just you're getting an emotional roller, or some kind of a sensational roller coaster, and you just go on a ride, and it's just the same thing over and over.
Well, sort
mostly.
I mean,
and you're just getting that kind of experience,
Yeah.
To me, I was just going to say, to me, it felt like, a theme park. It just meant that you're being immersed in the Marvel world, and that seemed to be pretty obvious to me. It's like it's just an immersive experience rather than a story experience. We'll go on, Tansa.
Now, I was going to try and parse a little bit Coppola's words. First of all, he seems to be going by a very specific definition for what cinema is, which reminds me a lot what the whole theater is, like the theatrical experience that comes with a lesson and a catharsis in the end, and a whole list of things that the audience should be able to gain from a theatrical play. And I think that he probably goes by a definition for cinema that involves these elements. So if we were to apply this kind of definition, there are certain movies within the MCU, not all of them, that would not make the cut because they are basically consolidation films that resolve elements or are huge climaxes of previous movies, one way or the other. So you wouldn't get the entire story arc or development of the characters within that one movie. And if you were, as luck would have it, to watch just that movie, you wouldn't feel that you are able to get anything from it. Other films, however, that are more standalone, more like one single unit, do manage to offer the hero's journey and elements to think about and elements to learn about and stimulation that could lead to emotional and cognitive development. So he wouldn't be correct, but he could have been only a chance. He could have had just a chance experience with these kinds of movies and be unlucky enough to have an experience from the bad ones.
Yeah,
in the pop.
That's a good point. Like he saw something like, I don't know, Infinity Wars or something like that, and
Age of Ultron.
Yeah, Age of Ultron, and it was just he couldn't grasp it, and he couldn't get a handle on it. It was just like washed over him. So yeah, we do develop our experiences from particular instances, and we extrapolate based on that, which is a problem, we extrapolate too far from limited data sets and develop really, skewed opinions of things based on our limited experience, which we all do that, and it's a problem.
But also there is the chance that he was studious enough, which I don't see the reason why he would do that. If he had an initial bad experience, why he would try another movie and subject himself to another one. Okay. But assuming that he saw the entire set, how many movies are there? 20 or something?
20-something.
7 million, I think.
He may legitimately feel that it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
As a son. Okay. And he might feel that they are too sensationalist and that the messages within it are trite or, cookie cutter or whatever. For example, I have friends that absolutely love The Matrix, the first movie, because the others don't exist. and and I also have friends from the same cohort and from the same, let's say, circles that hate it because they feel that there was nothing there to learn or nothing there to take, that it was a very shallow and stupid movie. So it depends on what you look. Personally, I really like the Matrix, the first one, the only one.
Yeah.
But yeah, you cannot say that the other person doesn't know what they're talking about, because the way that they, for example, expect to experience a philosophical concept or an existential concept might not be this. They might need something else, and that's fine. It is not to their taste, and they will not like it, and they might even find it despicable.
Yeah.
Like I did with Green Mile, for example. So.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the comment that... sorry,
a little bit of a point. I can see it.
For me, the comment that they're despicable seems to go a little bit far. That sort of claims that they're there's some malice in them or some ill intent in the films. We're making money by just producing the same film over and over and over. Ha ha ha. We're deliberately creating bubblegum for your minds, and you're being sucked in because you're too stupid to know better. Well, obviously that's going a bit far, but saying it's despicable seems to imply some evil intent.
Well, he might think that there is. Or he might just be very angry and ranting. So he would use the word despicable.
True.
Because
as much as I enjoy those movies, I think that argument could actually be made. I don't know if I would make it, but there's an insidiousness to modern, and this argument has been going on for decades anyway, for different formats over the years, But
okay,
does it make it dumber?
Interesting.
Is it playing to some lower part of our nature or something that just keeps us sort of in an almost addictive way, in a sensation kind of way, to keep coming back? And just, as you talked about, like just being bubble gum, it's just candy. I don't know. Well, someone could make that argument.
Yeah. We also have to consider that this is art, okay? Whether it is good art or bad art is a subjective thing. The thing is that these movies being art, they are a projective medium. And that means that the audience is going to project upon the movie what they bring within them to a point, depending on how abstract and how free the movie allows this process to be. However, it happens in every single movie, because who you choose to identify with, what you choose to focus on, what message rings true or false within you. All of these things are a function of who you are at the particular point in time, your personal experiences, and your personal convictions. So it could seem insidious to him and bubblegum and despicable, and it could be his legit opinion, given who he is and what movies he has seen and what experiences he has. We cannot fault him for that, assuming that he's being sincere.
Yeah, assuming he's being sincere. Yeah, we don't know his thought process or his experience of them. So yeah, it's a lot more complicated than you initially think. Oh, he's old and over the hill, ha ha, hasn't produced anything good since Jack, and should just give up now.
It's all downhill.
Exactly.
But I think that before we, start wrapping up, we should give our own opinions instead of just talking about other people's opinions. Just be on the map on what we believe, because then they can see what we project on their on their words.
Oh God, I'm projecting all over the place. Like a cinema camera. All right, so my opinion of what, though? His words or Marvel films?
His words. And of Marvel films.
I think I've given my opinion pretty liberally about my opinion of his words. But my opinion of Marvel films is that, yeah, they are an immersive experience. They're a lot of fun, and I enjoy them a lot. I love what Marvel has done with the films. They are a bit like homework, and I do find them overwhelming. There are so bloody many, and I don't know which order to see them in. But more and more, I'm not really caring about whether I should see them in an order, unless it's the End Game and Infinity War and Civil War and all that kind of stuff. I'd obviously see that in an order, but I don't care about seeing, Captain America 3 or the Spider-Man film and Iron Man 3 and all that kind of stuff in an order. I just see them, and Black Panther, I see that in whatever order. So yeah, I think they are bubblegum, but they're fun and really an enjoyable experience. That's my opinion of the Marvel universe. What about you guys?
Yeah, well, I would say I've enjoyed a few of them. A few of them I really like, and they're at the top of my list for movies I love watching.
Hmm.
You've really explained, and some of them I really have not liked, and there's a handful of them that I just skipped because I had no interest.
Yeah.
You've kind of made it more clear to me what Scorsese might have meant. Like now that I've had a whole QUACKCAST and our conversation earlier to think about it, the theme park and the immersion thing. Now I kind of get it. I think like maybe he was getting the point that you go to a theme park and you enjoy the actress who plays the evil queen. I've seen her on YouTube. And Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck because you know who they are already. And it's just sort of an experience of just sort of experiencing stuff you already know. So that when you go into the Marvel Universe, that was, I don't necessarily agree, but I could see that you know these characters from comics or you know them from previous movies and you're going to just experience things you already know. Maybe it was something along those lines, like rather than a more kind of self-contained like a hero's journey, like going from taking a real journey or whatever. I don't necessarily agree. For some of those, I do agree. For some, I'm like, well, this is taking us outside of the standard superhero story a bit. But then I think, well, I know these characters from comics personally, so it's I think it's a fair point. It's an interesting point. I will say definitely, I don't know if we even really touched on it all that much, but the media will cherry pick things to create drama, get clicks.
Yeah.
And the backlash
Absolutely.
it turns into this firestorm that is just, when you look at the original context of the comments, it's like, well, why is anyone mad about this? As well, this drama is created artificially.
Exactly. I mean, Coppola's things were more inflammatory, but that's just like a 3 cents. It's not much to build a castle of outrage.
Coppola is a legend. He's entitled to his opinion, and great. Like, why would? Well, that's another thing. Why would Marvel fans be angry at all? Like, these movies are dominating. They're not going to stop making them. Anytime soon. It's like, well, so what do you care? Like you're getting these movies. Like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these guys did.
The Marvel Universe.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
No. You continue. I was just like, tromping all
I'm
over
going
what you're
all
saying.
over the place here, but I will say the Marvel Universe I've loved. I loved the conclusion of the Infinity War, particularly Infinity War, and then Endgame was quite good too. The actual ending. It's kind of a pretty complete story to me now. I'm kind of. I said before that I think I'm done with it, and someone convinced me to watch the Spider-Man movie that came out after, and I was like, that's all right. But now I think I'm probably mostly done with it. It's been amazing for the most part, just as an entirety, as telling a story on that level, that many interconnected movies. I mean, that's been just awesome to me. And a lot of characters I've known my whole life too. And it's just great. But I think I'm kind of okay, done with it.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Tons?
Yeah.
Well, as far as the comments by the directors, as for Scorsese, I wouldn't even pay attention to it, to be honest, personally. As far as Coppola's value judgments, I don't like to hear that kind of language for art in general, because you do have a lot of work and a lot of investment that usually goes into these films. And unless it is completely industrialized, you will have people that really gave themselves to something, being told that they have created something despicable or something like that. And that is always a very nasty feeling. So even if I would feel negative about something, I wouldn't like, and I personally, I wouldn't do that, and I don't like to hear it in others, to use such strong and rejecting language about it. That said, he is entitled to his opinion, and it should have been that, and it would have sunk into obscurity if nobody had paid attention to it. raged up a storm about it, which could have been a PR move as well, but that's a completely different theory. As far as my personal opinion of the MCU is that it is very hit and miss, and there are some gems in there that I really liked and I enjoyed, and I feel that they are legitimately powerful films. But I also feel that there are a lot that are completely cookie cutter. So the whole, bubblegum repetitive thing, yes, I can see it, but not in everything. It depends on the title, basically. So that's my opinion on the MCU. And I also feel that it was an epic approach to do all this interconnected network of movies that in order to know the full picture, you have to see all of them. This was very, very interesting and worth the while. Clearly made a lot of money, but it was worth the while as an experiment. I would fear the future if all movies were like that from now on. I wouldn't be able to see any.
Agree. For sure.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
It's a great way to approach bigger sort of stories, though. I mean, obviously we originally had things like The Godfather, which is, a trilogy of films, or the...
Yes, but they are still standalone. That's my point.
But what I mean is there's an interconnected bunch of, there's 3 films, or Star Wars, or Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, stuff like that. So films have wanted to go that way, and audiences want that kind of thing as well. We do sort of want sequels. We've always wanted sequels because we want to revisit the world that we enjoyed. We want to go there for another ride.
However, I would still maintain that a sequel and a whole litany of sequels is not the same thing as the MCU cinematic universe.
True.
Because I can jump in and watch any sequel and it would still be a movie in and of itself. And then if I want, I can go and see the one before. In certain movies in the cinematic universe, if I have not seen the ones that they are connected to, I cannot follow the movie at all. I will be confused. And this is an element, this is not a negative thing, it is just a characteristic of this approach to storytelling. And that's all that there is to it. I just wouldn't like it. I feel that it would be very impractical, at least for me, to have to go through all these hours of movie watching in order to watch the one movie I was interested in watching in the first place. So that's the thing.
There is an element of that definitely in these Marvel films. Obviously, not all of them. There's a lot you can watch without having to
exactly.
That's why it's
but a good part, like the ones that bring everything together and weave all the other, single standing movies. Then these you cannot watch unless you have seen all the relevant ones.
All right, let's talk about our favorites.
Like jumping to the end of a novel and like reading the last few chapters and then
you don't
try to understand what's going on. Yeah,
exactly.
So what's everyone's favorites? Just quickly before.
I didn't know we were going to go here. Okay, yeah.
Might as well.
Doctor Strange for me.
Doctor Strange. Bites?
I love Doctor Strange.
It was a good film.
And I couldn't. There's no way I could settle on a top. Okay, I'm a Marvel geek. It's obvious. But I'll give you my top 5 quick.
Okay.
It's Civil War, Infinity War, Iron Man 1, Avengers 1, and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Good picks.
1 and 2.
That's the Infinity Gems all on one fist.
Yes.
Almost all of those movies need some setup to enjoy.
Just don't snap. Baines.
Exactly.
Oh no.
They're all gone,
Very
Baines.
good.
You've only got 2.5 movies now.
Oh, no, it feels so good.
For me, it's Captain America 1, because it's retro and it was the hero that I grew up with as, you know, the old-fashioned style Captain America for most of it, which was, I loved it. Fighting the Nazis, or Hydra, whatever. That's proper Captain America. And Guardians of the Galaxy, I loved that one. That was so much fun.
Nice.
If I'm going to name a few like Baines, so yeah, Captain America, Guardians of the Galaxy, that's just glorious. Then I'd say Avengers, first Avengers, because you've got the first ensemble thing there, which is with all the characters and the big reveal with the hover characters, so cool. Then I'd say Ant-Man, because it was just a little standalone thing, and you don't have to watch that with any other Marvel film. It was just fun. It was small scale, just him and a bad guy, not the whole rest of the bloody Marvel stuff. And finally, Doctor Strange, because that was another really, really cool one. It was just trippy and went in different directions than the other Marvel films. It's about physicality. It's about, you know, intelligence and skill and magic, and just took you into other dimensions, which was a whole other kind of thing that the other stuff doesn't necessarily do. So yeah, that's what I liked. So yeah, I like having a top 5. It's good.
Yeah.
I still have the one, Doctor Strange. I liked all those other ones that I have seen. I haven't seen most of Baines' top 5. But yeah, my favorite still is 1, Doctor Strange. That's it.
Well, fair enough. I think speaking of shared experience, which is Scorsese's point, one of the reasons I liked Guardians of the Galaxy so much is because I saw that in a cinema in Istanbul when I was there with my friends. So that also played into it, I think, perhaps. So, yeah, you have that kind of aspect of it. But it was still a fun, great film. I still will remember that and like that, you know, above a lot of other stuff that I've seen. So, yeah, maybe it's that and maybe not. It's interesting to think about. Do you guys see it in cinemas, any of the stuff, or is it mostly streaming?
Streaming.
Okay. How about you, Baines? Oh, Baines is out for the count at the moment.
Oh, sorry, my mic was turned off. Yeah, most of the ones I've seen in the theater.
Oh, okay.
The top 5, I have them all on DVD. Watched them multiple times.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
In fact, I just watched Infinity War again last night. Crazily enough.
Boning up on it.
Yeah.
So you can quote all the lines of the film.
Oh, it's good, but Tans is totally correct in that. Like, if you watched it cold, it would be. I mean, there's so many characters. It's so full of stuff that would make no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's an ending, you know.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah.
Very much the Empire Strikes Back, but you need a lot more homework just watching the first Star Wars.
Yeah, I find that intimidating with those films. The idea behind Civil War and stuff like that doesn't appeal to me that much. And I feel like if I want to get to, those last films, I will have to sort of wade through. And I'm a bit averse to that. I don't really feel like doing that, so I'll see.
Yeah. I mean, Civil War, if you watched Avengers 1, you could kind of watch Civil War for the most part.
Okay.
But to jump right into Infinity War, that's where you need a lot more, understanding of who everyone is and what's going on.
Oh. Well, I think we should...
Beyond a roller coaster.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely get into it, and especially because it's an ending and it wraps up things that will pay off stuff and give a lot of fan service, I imagine, which has got to mean nothing to you unless you've, experienced the earlier films. So, and
right.
that would be a positive experience. In order to get that kind of adrenaline, not adrenaline, but endorphin hit, you've got to have had to build up first. All right, so we should wrap up then.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for listening to our ranty stuff about the rantiness of Coppola and Scorsese and Jennifer Aniston.
I was just about to reference, I love you, Jennifer Aniston. That's not really true, but when I draw, like now I'm working on my comic a lot more, and I'm playing Friends on Netflix. I just let that play because I saw it so long ago. I don't really have to look.
Oh, God.
Background, play Friends.
It's a comfort zone like the Marvel films.
I can't believe how old that show is now.
Yeah.
It's
20
crazy.
years.
Yeah.
Wow. Everyone is a baby in there now.
Yeah.
It's true. All right. Thank you guys for listening to our stuff. QUACKCAST number
Thank you.
454. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.